Welcome to another edition of the Chicks on the Right podcast. Very excited because we have been talking about the film After Death for a couple of weeks now. We're huge fans of the film and actually huge fans of our special guest that we have with us today, Dr. Michael Sabom. I hope I'm saying that right because I know it looks like Sabom.
No, Sabom.
Sabom. And we're very excited to have you specifically as our guest because your appearance in the film was actually our favorite. So we were hoping that we would get to talk with you. And I think one of the reasons that you are our favorite is because you were initially a skeptic about this whole topic. And so we'll talk to you about that. But first, we want to let people know exactly who you are. And for those of you who haven't seen the film, Dr. Sabom is a cardiologist in private practice and on staff at Northside and St. Joe's Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. You have a book. Your first was Recollections of Death, a medical investigation, and a second book, Light and Death, one doctor's fascinating account of near-death experiences, and that is all based on your work founding the Atlanta Study, which is the first comprehensive investigation of its kind into NDEs.
So I got the Genucell 3 trace, and I have used it, and I love it because, we've had the Genucell Uno, the Genucell dose. And now we have the Genucell 3, and it's pretty amazing. I use anything and everything that I can get under my eyes because I have to get up at the crack of dawn to do our show every single morning. And this stuff is bomb. It's completely awesome.
It is bomb. I don't know how, I didn't think that they could improve their under eye treatment yet somehow Genucell 3, which is finally here, it is their most advanced ever. And I'm going to tell you, I have to read the things that are in it because I don't want to mess this up. It combines hyaluronic acid, iceryl, goji, berry, caffeine, and green tea.
Has
all
caffeine in it.
of that mixed together in their perfect formulation that Genucell has. Makes the bags, makes the puffiness, all of that disappear, takes care of dark circles, your fine lines, crow's feet. It firms up everything in this whole area. And they are the first, by the way, Genucell, to provide instant hydrating minerals. So it's basically like just giving yourself your own personal facial at home.
Every single day. And it helps with longevity of your skin because I'm in it for the long haul when it comes to my eye. Seriously, I've always tried to take care of my under eye area, but Genucell has taken it to the next level. So it's included in the Genucell Fall Classics package and at a crazy introductory discount. You guys have got to take advantage of this. Yeah. Take advantage of it. Go to Genucell.com/chicks for deep discounts on this amazing fall package or call 800-SKIN-211 now.
I love that they have a phone number now.
I know, right? Because you can talk to the lovely people at Genucell. And for results in 12 hours or less, the immediate effects are included for free. Get ready for Thanksgiving because people, your really judgy aunt is going to be looking at you and you're under eye
is she aging?
Right.
Aging?
So do it. Go to Genucell.com/chicks now or call 800-SKIN-211. That's GENUCEL.com/chicks.
So you've been featured on several television programs. You're obviously very accomplished, and yet you were a skeptic going into this. What changed your mind? What made you a believer in near-death experiences?
Well, I had never heard of these experiences before until I was in my cardiology fellowship at the University of Florida, and this was in 1975, probably long before either one of you were born.
That's very kind, but not true.
We were born in the 70s. It's very kind. Yeah.
And anyway, I was shown Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life, by a psychiatric social worker I was working with, and she was going to be giving a talk at a Methodist church on near-death experiences at the time. And Moody's book had only been out for a few months at that time. That was his first edition book. And when I read the book, I thought it was hogwash. I'd never heard of these experiences before. I actually went around the hospital asking some of the older physicians whether they had, and they said no. And so I was very skeptical of it. I thought Moody was making these up to sell books. And so Sarah, who was the social worker, challenged me. She said, well, have you ever asked any of your patients? And I said, no. So she said, well, go and do it for me. So I did. And the third patient I talked to had a near-death experience. And so that sort of got me interested in it, but certainly not convinced of it. The presentation she gave, she used a case that I gave her. And after that, we got together and said, maybe there is something to this. Why don't we devise a scientific study to look into it? And so we did that, and we started interviewing patients, and over a period of 5 years, 116 patients with near-death experiences were recorded. Now, we didn't do it the way Moody did it. Raymond will fully admit, he actually admits it in his book, that he did not do a scientific study. And I was really into science at that time. And so we had a protocol we followed, went through the necessary preliminaries of talking to patients on studies, etc. And we completed the study. She had moved to Louisiana at the time. She was pursuing a PhD in social work, and I went to Emory in Atlanta at the time also. So we split ways, but the study continued. The thing that really hooked me on was that I was interested in what I called at the time the autoscopic, which is a word meaning self-visualization or commonly out-of-body experience, part of the experience where people feel as if they float up out of their body and they can actually see what's going on in the room.
Wow.
Now, as a cardiologist, I said, okay, so you're seeing what's going on in the room. I felt sure I could poke holes in that story. So I would then go and interrogate them further about what they had seen. And most of the descriptions were very general, like people standing around the bed, et cetera, et cetera. There wasn't anything unique or specific about what they had said or seen. So, but 6 of them were very, very detailed. And so I took those 6 cases and verified their accuracy by medical records or talking to other people who had been there, including myself. And what I found was that they were extremely accurate. I then went to the literature and looked into whether there could have been some mundane other explanation for it and could not find any. And this was all then written up in a book. But the thing that hooked me was the accuracy of their experience that I could not explain, that they said they saw from out of their body during the resuscitation. And it had been shown many times in several studies that if somebody has a cardiac arrest, they're fully unconscious with a flat EEG 15 to 20 seconds after the arrest starts. So in a hospital situation, you're not going to get to the patient and resuscitate them within the 15 or 20 seconds. So they were unconscious and near death at the time. And I did not know, I could not find any way they could have known about these visual observations they were having during their unconscious period.
Wow.
So, at that point I said, well, I really, at the end of the book, I left it kind of open. I said, this is truly happening. I think they're having these experiences, but the explanation really was not known in science at that time.
So fascinating. Okay, so when it comes to viewers coming in, the people that are skeptics or whoever, people that believe in these, like what do you want the impact to be on the viewer? So what do you hope the viewer gains by seeing the movie?
Well, I think there's something going on we can't explain by ordinary scientific methods. I think that this is a spiritual experience. If it's not a material experience, I think it's a spiritual experience. And I think what they're seeing is actually occurring. Now, whether or not you consider these to be after death experiences or not is another question. The definition of death medically is very vague. We don't have a really good moment at which we know that the patient is actually finally physically irreversibly dead. So that point is still under contention, and that's certainly something that comes into play when when you're considering a patient for transplanting their organs. You want to make sure that they're physically dead at the time before you start taking their organs out. So that's still up in the
Is it
air.
really? Like, I had no idea that that was a thing.
Yes, that is a thing. And there's controversy now in the medical field, and has been forever, exactly how soon you can take what's called an unpaired organ out of a person before they're, or at the point after they've died. You want to get the organ out as soon as possible. That's the key. But you don't want to get it out while they're still alive. Otherwise, you're killing them when you're taking the organ out.
Wow.
So there's a real tension there, and sometimes that creates problems. But anyway, that's a medical problem. That's not a problem with what's going on with a near-death experience, except for the fact that if you're trying to say that this is a before death or after death experience, if you can't define the moment of death very clearly, then you have a problem with determining whether it's before or after death. I personally believe, as a Christian and biblically, that these are before death experiences and not after death experiences. And I know there have been a lot of books written about, I went to heaven and I saw this, I saw that, I met God, I saw the golden a pathway up to God, etc., and deceased relatives and friends. I do not buy into the fact that they're actually in heaven doing that at that time. I think there's clear evidence in Scripture that shows that people are appointed to die once and then the judgment. That's Hebrews 9:27. And there are multiple verses in the Bible that back that up also. So I think that it's a spiritual experience. I think it's a very powerful experience, which has powerful impact on their religious beliefs and belief in life after death and other things in the patient who has the experience. But I don't think it's a glimpse or what we call a tourist view of heaven.
I have people coming into my house nonstop until literally New Year's, until we go on a trip after Christmas. And it's nonstop. So I've got like 3 sets of family members coming in, and the only thing that's going to save me is Omaha Steaks, because I don't cook, but my husband grills, and so this is what we do. We have a freezer full of Omaha Steaks, all the good stuff, the filet, like the bacon wrap fillets. We have pork chops. We have the yummy, juicy hot dogs, which the kids love. I'm telling you, these are not normal hot dogs. These are like unbelievable hot dogs. We've got just regular burgers, which are not regular when they come from Omaha because they're absolutely freaking amazing. So everything is in our freezer ready to go. And we just, at a moment's notice, will be like, let's grill out. And this is what we do. It's the absolute best. You have to do this. You have to stock up. Plus, it's great for gifts. We give Omaha Steaks to people at, Thanksgiving, at Christmas. My mom loves Omaha. I give her Omaha Steaks like every year for Christmas. I'll give her like a nice little curated package of stuff. And she loves the little potatoes. She'll make herself like a little filet and potatoes. Like, she's single lady and she'll make herself a nice little dinner. Like, she treats herself.
And you can even feel like you're helping. Like, when your husband is grilling, you can do the sides in the oven. Right. 'Cause it's super easy.
If I feel like it, yeah, I mean, I may do that, or I may make him just do all of it. Yeah, but anyways, this is why you need Omaha Steaks in your life, because they make your life a lot easier, especially during the holidays when it comes to gift giving, when it comes to just entertaining, all the things. This is the time. Stock up, you guys.
Do it, especially right now. There's a 50% site-wide sale. So now is the time to fill up your freezers, because everything's 50% off at their semi-annual sale. And if you use code CHICKS at checkout, you get an extra $30 off. Their minimum purchases apply, but $30 off your order when you go to omahasteaks.com, and make sure to use code CHICKS.
The whole genre of books that I won't be mentioning names, but basically claim that it's trips to heaven, and they're called heaven tourism books. And that's come under fire because from both the religious community and the medical community, because it's not backed up.
So do you think that
evidence.
when these people, if they've experienced these, they've had these NDEs, do you think that when they die that it could be totally different when they actually do die?
That's correct.
Interesting.
I think to know what heaven is like, you can read the scriptures and get a picture of it from the Word of
Right.
God. But you can't rely upon what you saw or think you saw when you were only near death and not after death. You haven't been there, done that. I'll come back and tell you what it's like. And we have, quite frankly, we have ordained ministers who've had these experiences who say exactly that. That is the one I have in mind, says that he has now changed the way he does funerals based upon the fact that he can tell the people standing at the graveside where this person is, what it's like, what they saw, and what they can expect themselves. So it gets to be that I speak out against, because I think
That's wrong.
way
Yeah.
way overreaching and also
Interesting.
incorrect.
Okay.
So
Before we get off
Yeah.
that subject, I think it's very important to state that, and this is very important, that if you have non-Christians who are having pleasant near-death experiences, and you have Christians who are having almost the identical pleasant near-death experiences, you would say, well, okay, the Christian is a Christian, and my Christian belief is that they will go to heaven. The non-Christian is having the same experience, and the Christian with authority says, I went to heaven. Well, then the non-Christian will say, I went to heaven too. So I don't need your religion. I'll do it my own way. It makes no difference. That's called universalism, as you well know. And that is I would think, the biggest problem with claiming you went to heaven if you're a Christian, because the non-Christians are going there too, because they have the identical
That is such a
experience.
great point, because I've had these discussions with people where they're like, who gets like how. That is such a great point, because I've heard that about non-Christians and Christians and how they do in these near-death experiences go to the same place. So how do you differentiate between Christians and non-Christians? And I've had this discussion with people, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's frustrating for Christians, right? Because you're like, wait, I'm doing things right, and I'm a Christian, so I don't get it. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's so interesting that you brought that up. Yeah.
So
Right. Jesus many times in the New Testament said, I am the way, the truth,
Right.
and life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Yeah.
Well, if you're coming to the Father in the near-death experience, and you're seeing the Father and having a conversation with him, and it's all great,
Yeah.
beautiful, and you're a non-Christian, voila, makes no
Yeah.
difference.
So in the people that have had these experiences, did you find through the research that there's something that is a common denominator with those people specifically? Because my dad, for example, suffered cardiac arrest, and he was down for the count for a few minutes before he got shocked back to life. And he did not have any kind of experience like this at all. So I'm wondering if there's something that the people who do have the experiences have in common that you were able to uncover.
No.
Nothing.
We really don't have the answer to that question. And it's a very, very good question. Only about 10 to 15% of people who have a bona fide cardiac arrest will have a near-death experience, or at least recall having a near-death experience, because all sorts of things are happening at the time. They're getting different drugs. They could be forgetting it, or they could not actually have the experience. We don't know. That's up for grabs. That's not a good. But the key here is, though, if you don't have the experience and you do have a cardiac arrest, that doesn't mean that you're not a Christian or that you're not going to heaven if you're a Christian.
Right.
So your dad needs to be reassured, if he's a Christian, that he's going to heaven, not because he didn't have, or not, and the fact that he did not have the experience does not mean that he is not going to heaven, because these other people were not going to heaven or hell either.
So how did all of your research into this change your own life, your own perspective about life after death or near-death experiences?
Well, it changed my life. It did not change my religion. I was a Christian to begin with, albeit I'm a much stronger Christian now than I was way back then. What it did was reinforce my beliefs that there's more to this life than the physical body. The spiritual part of life is real, and it has ups and downs, and the good and the bad to it. And I personally feel, after dealing with these people and studying these experiences, that the spiritual realm is a very real thing.
It's just, is there anything else, Miriam, that you wanted to ask?
Well, I guess the last thing would just be what you're hoping that audiences will take away from this experience. Because I know, for me personally, there was a moment where I was so riveted the entire time. And then there was the one gentleman whose name I can't remember now, who doesn't want to be here anymore because of how overwhelmingly joyful the experience was. And that was rough.
It was heartbreaking.
Like, to watch that part.
Yeah.
And to think, man, he's feeling like he's missing out on something, and he's still here to tell his story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the fears when we first started investigating these things, is that people would be seeing these experiences, claiming that they've been to heaven, how wonderful it is, and whether we would encourage suicide attempts because of that. Because people say, well, if that's the way it is, and I believe them, then why don't I just go there now? What's interesting, though, is that if someone who does attempt suicide and has a near-death experience, it causes them not to repeat the experience itself. It does the exact opposite of what we had initially been afraid of when we first started doing this work. And medical studies have been published in good medical journals showing that a suicide attempter who has a near-death experience will be much less likely to attempt it again compared to one who did not have the near-death experience. And as you both probably know, that suicide tends to, there's a high recidivism rate in suicide attempting. So it's actually a therapeutic deterrent against repeating the suicide.
That is fascinating. Well, we really enjoyed the film, enjoyed you in the film, and we have been encouraging everybody to visit angel.com/chicks to get tickets and make sure to see it. Get tickets for your friends through the Pay It Forward program at angel.com/chicks. Dr. Michael Sabom, we appreciate you being with us.
Yeah, it was
Thank
fun
you so
getting
much.
to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, now we know the secret of what makes the MyPillow towels so special, and it's something that I've never even heard of.
It's taken us years. You ready? Brrr. Here we go.
That actually fits because it's Sherper cotton is the secret behind the extra thirsty, absorbent, soft but not too soft,
right?
Like scrubby, perfect towels.
They absorb.
Oh my gosh, so absorbent.
Yeah. They're
So
fantastic.
absorbent.
There's
And
no other towel like it.
The best texture. Like I hate lotiony, gooey,
Me
soft
too.
luxury towels. I hate them.
Me too. These are the best.
Dislike.
These are the absolute. There's nothing you have to buy them and experience them to understand. Then if you know, you know. Their towels are if you know, you know, and when you know, you're like, okay, I can never have another towel ever again. The MyPillow towels are the absolute best, and they're Sherper
cotton. I'm going to say that forever. All the time.
Listen, they're great gifts, you guys. 'Tis the season. This is the time. Buy towels for your family members. They're going to love you for this. Absolutely love you.
And you're not going to break the bank because they're 50% off right now when you use code CHICKS at mypillow.com/chicks. They are less than $30 for a set of 6 towels.
So fantastic.
Hello.
I'm telling you, they're going to love you for this. Do it. Go to mypillow.com/chicks. Enter code CHICKS at checkout. Do it.